Dámy a pánové, vítejte u další epizody, tentokrát opět trošku jiná. Tentokrát nejen, že mám s sebou velmi zajímavý hosta, ale dokonce měníme i jazyk nahrávání. Tato epizoda bude v angličtině a to z důvodu, že mám tady pozvanýho kamaráda, bývalýho trojbojaře, kulturistu a kouče Arona Robertsona, což je můj kamarád z Anglie, potkali jsme se na škole a popovídáme si o tom, jaký je to být trojbojař, následný přesun do kulturistiky, co si z toho můžeme naučit, odníst a přenést. Podíváme se na rozdíly v tréninku, na takový tréninkové principy, které můžeme využít my jako trojbojaři. Podíváme se třeba i na rozdíl mezi sleevesama a vrepama, na pákové poměry. Povídáme si o hromadě různých věcí a uvidíme, jak se vám to bude líbit. Tato epizoda pro mě byla velmi zábavná, hrozně jsem si ji užil, povídal jsem si s dobrým kamarádem a zároveň na zajímavý témata. Pokud by vás bavila, tak milé rád tady budu mít Arona znovu. Řešili jsme, že bychom se ještě mohli popovídat o výživě, o využití performance enhancing drugs, takže steroidů, hormonů, insulínu, takových těch věcí a podobně. Takže určitě dejte vědět, jestli vám tyto epizody v angličtině dávají stejně jako v češtině, anebo jestli bychom se měli držet těch českých epizod a angličtinu vynechat. Takže doufám, že si tuto epizodu užijete. So, as promised, here we are with my good friend Aaron. Say hi.
Hello. How are we doing?
So, as I said in introduction, me and Aaron go, 2.5 years back? Something like that?
Probably longer now, probably like 3.5 years, I'd say.
It's going to be 3 in September, I think. No, actually longer.
Yeah, because because when I first came out of uni, wasn't it? It's about
it's like
about 3 years. About 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, just about. So basically, for those who don't know, there's gonna be Aaron's Instagram profile in the caption. So just take a look at him. Like if you're gonna see the Instagram, you're gonna know why I invited him here. Because just to give perspective, what's your height and weight at the moment?
So currently, my height, I'm 6'5". In
That's
centimeters,
210.
No, not quite. It's about 195, 196.
Oh, okay.
Centimeters, and then weight-wise at the moment, I'm currently 104, 103.5 kilos, but I am on prep for a bodybuilding competition, so I'm not my heaviest, but cutting down.
Yeah, so he's quite tall and lanky guy overall. Like he packed a lot of size on him in past year and a half since you switched from powerlifting. But back when we met, you were powerlifting. How heavy were you? Do you remember? Like around the...
When we first met, I was probably chilling around 100 kilos because the first comp I did was 105 IPF, wasn't it? So around the 100 mark, initially when we first kind of got together and stuff. Yeah.
So you were 100 kilos. During the time with friends, you got up to 126, 5, 7.
Yeah, around the 125 mark. But it was not a good 125. It was a big 125, but not muscle.
Yeah. So and now after a couple, half a year about that bodybuilding?
About a year about a year or so, just strict bodybuilding.
Yeah. So you're down to 105, but
it's essentially
you're
20
prepping.
kilos lighter.
So you're 13 weeks out?
13 weeks out as of today, actually. Yeah.
Oh, nice. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So
it is.
Basically, what I wanted to do on this podcast is get you here, have a bit of chat about powerlifting / bodybuilding, some things that we can gain from bodybuilders, overall, those kind of things. If people are going to enjoy this episode, we're going to do a couple more because, the difference between you and me is that you actually used reps on squats and like competed in ABPU and later on in BPU. So you can give us some insight into how much actually reps help, how fun it is. We can have a bit of chat about gear use as well, and how like the powerlifting changes, those kind of things. So I think that it's going to be an interesting one. So if people can get over the fact that it's in English, it's going to be fun.
It will be good. I think it'd be worthwhile sticking around for these ones. I think there's a lot of we've known each other for a while. I think there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about. And like you said, we always have good conversation. We've got so much kind of different like opinions and perspectives. We always have a really good conversation. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah. I'm just gonna quickly do screen share because I think it's gonna be actually easy. So
oh, here we go.
Let's look at 29 weeks out.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is horrible haircut, mate.
Even this was like quite a while ago. Like, I feel like I look so much different now.
It's 16 weeks.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's crazy how much I've changed since then.
Like 16 weeks is 4 months. Like, because we talking in weeks, it's quite like but if you then think about it in months, it's so fucking long. But
here we go.
You can probably see from the video how fucking tall and lanky he is. Like it's like those arms are probably as long as both of mine together. So yeah.
Yeah, that was when I was about peak body weight, around 123, 124 kilos, I think, when I pulled that.
Yeah.
Obviously gym lift, not comp, but still.
Yeah, gym lift and like no t-shirt, so it doesn't count, and a bumper bar. But like I was gonna show
that picture there.
Here you can see comparison, the two of us. It's really long time, like 105 weeks.
Yeah.
But you can see how funny it looks when like obviously I'm behind you, but still like I
was putting hook grip here. Yeah, God, that's brave. God, it's such a messy deadlift.
Yeah, there's the 250.
Counts though, my God. I do miss that feeling, that feeling of just grinding a rep. That's the only thing I really miss. After switching from powerlifting to bodybuilding, so I just miss the feeling of just maximal effort and just grinding a rep.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It is. Yeah. Here we go. My first comp.
That's your first comp, and here, like you can see this. Yeah, there's a head difference, and at one point we were on the same body weight. Currently, I'm like 20 kilos heavier. So, well, not 20, but 18 kilos heavier.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But still, like, had a difference. Like, it's just mental. So, yeah. So, basically, why I wanted to show this is actually I wanted to show one of your squats, but I doubt that you posted any. Did you?
I probably do. If you on one of the videos, I'll have like a recap of videos. That's pictures, I think. I'll have on that. So this is the ABPU comp, I think.
ABPU. So it's obviously in reps, but basically what I want to show this is to see like how low and how long is the distance for the legs, because obviously you have great leverages for deadlift, but for squat it punishes you so badly. And this is one of the kind of reasons why you even switched into reps, if I'm correct, didn't you?
Yeah. So when we looked at it, obviously it was going to help me a lot in terms of keeping that sort of posture and that torso a bit more upright, because obviously, like most tall guys, something I really suffered with as we worked on previously was the collapsing of the squat and having the ass come out of the stripper squat, I think people refer to it as nowadays. And it was really difficult. And obviously we worked different, like, we tried to work dorsiflexion, ankle mobility to try and improve it, but there was only so much I could do. So I think that was definitely part of the reason to going through to wraps, was just to try and assist that a little bit. So, and also just to make the squat more enjoyable, because I never really enjoyed it until I got on wraps.
That's true. I coached you for some time, and I actually remember one of our training sessions where I outbench your squat.
Yeah,
And
I remember the picture I took.
Yeah, it wasn't like big, like rarity. It wasn't like something like wow, but it was like literally that I had single, you had single at the same time, and like back in sleeves, you got 175, I believe, 170.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
and then when you switch into reps, obviously you got 190 here, and so that was like I think 2-3 months difference in time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so it made a huge difference for you, like as I said, like using reps for like tall people makes such a big difference. Like, and as we know, well, we knew back then that you still weren't really good with the reps. Like you didn't know how to tie them properly. You weren't used to it. It takes a lot of time and attempts to get used to repping and getting most out of it. So I think you would get another like 20 kilos in next couple of months as well. Don't
Yeah,
you think?
absolutely. Wraps is one of those ones where the more you use them, the better you get with them. Like it's
Yeah.
not a case of you just slap them on and go. Like you don't just instantly add 20, 30, 40 kilos to your lift. Like they do help. There's no secret about that as what is equipped lifting. But to be really good at wraps, you need months, if not years of experience. And there's so many different ways you can go about utilizing them, wrapping them specifically. So yeah, if I had more time doing it, I think we could have seen a much bigger squat. But even just in the 2-3 months difference, like what that's like 20 odd kilos we added,
Yeah, yeah,
just from adding them in. So
yeah.
if we had more time, definitely would have been a lot more.
So basically, the takeaway from this should be if you're tall, you should go into reps. And obviously, in Czech Republic, we don't have any other rep federation than untested. So obviously, if you're tall, you should be on gear.
So, so
That's
the
quite
only
smart.
thing to do is to go equipped and take gear.
Yeah, start blasting, have fun.
Absolutely.
No,
We don't
obviously.
recommend this.
Uh,
Well, it depends how
to
long you
be
want to live.
to be fair, if you're tall and you're in powerlifting, you hate yourself anyway. So what's a bit of gear gonna
Yeah,
make as a difference? Like
exactly. I'll just hate myself more.
exactly.
So it's
So
great.
so yeah, basically, because of your leverages and your overall height and build, even though that you had deadlift, good deadlift.
It's okay. Semi-good deadlift.
Yeah. It was good compared to where you were with your squat and bench. Obviously,
Yeah,
we're not even gonna
absolutely.
talk about my bench. Like
No,
that's just
I
sad.
think we'll save people the disbelief of hearing it because
Yeah.
as you can tell, being 6'5", having a very long arm span, I think I benched my body weight once in my
Yeah.
powerlifting career.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
benched it once, and that was only when I was peak weight and also not on steroids. No, sorry, on steroids. I meant so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was God.
Yeah,
But
but I remember when we were chasing the 100 kilos bench, and
it
then
took ages.
we were on a comp, and I think that highlights how good the powerlifting community is. We were on IPF, yeah, IPF comp,
Hmm.
and you had some all right squat. It was good. I think that was the one where you hit 170. Then you failed 95 bench. You actually hit with your elbows. You hit the safeties for your head,
Safeties.
so it doesn't
Yeah,
fall on your neck. So you were literally just like, "Oh, I'm hitting it on the way down."
yeah,
So uh, basically, you felt like 95 or 97 or something like that, somewhere around there. I know we didn't hit
yeah.
100. And then you went
No,
on and opened with 250 kilos deadlift. And
that was the thing
everyone
I
was
loved.
cheering you on. Everyone
It,
was hyping you
yeah,
so much because they saw how much you struggled on bench. They were like, we need this guy to have a good time. And I think it was such a nice moment. Like,
that's what I found funny with that. And you see it a lot of the deadlifts. I mean, by no means am I a specialist, but obviously I've got a better deadlift. But I was
yeah,
opening up first on bench, and then I think I opened up third last on deadlift. People were like, he's just missed a 95 kilo bench. Now he's opening up nearly last. People are like,
yeah,
"What? Where's this come from?" But that, like you said, that's the good thing about powerlifting is like everyone's just there to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that atmosphere at powerlifting comps is something you can't recreate. And I think that's, now I've been to a few bodybuilding comps as well, is something that, again, bodybuilding doesn't quite have. The atmosphere of a powerlifting competition, you know, all federations I've been to, is just amazing. Like it is, the atmosphere and the energy there is really good.
Well, I think the difference is that in bodybuilding, you still compete against each other. Meanwhile, in powerlifting, you don't really. Like, yes, you do. Your placing matters on who else is in the comp, but at the end of the day, you're competing for the numbers. In bodybuilding, you don't have any other way how to compare yourself because, like, yes, you have stage pictures, but different lighting, different background, different time of the day. Yeah, maybe you have worked a bit harder, so you did more poses overall, more rounds of posing, so you got a bit more shredded or a bit worse or anything like that. So you cannot really compare it. Meanwhile, in powerlifting, you're like, yo, I scored at 250, I scored at 260. I got better.
Yeah, that's the thing with powerlifting. Is very, you know, it's you did it or you didn't, right? It's like there's very little room for error, like in terms of like judging. Like you either got the lift, and normally 9 times out of 10, if not more, the judges are right. Obviously, there's a few occasions where it's questionable, but most of the time it's right. But whereas bodybuilding, it's entirely subjective. You have no idea what the judges, who first of all who they're going to be, because obviously there's different judges, and what they're going to prefer. It very obviously they have criteria to follow, but it's very much what they like the look of personally. Whereas with powerlifting, it's you did it or you didn't. You got the total to qualify or you didn't. So that's the nice thing about powerlifting, which I think will be a bit of a shock for me going into bodybuilding this year.
Can you just imagine if powerlifting would be more subjective? They would be like, yes, you benched 160, but your arch makes it look stupid, so we're gonna count it as 130. It just would take too many kilos of your lift just because it looks stupid.
That's like people pulling sumo and people being like, yeah, you qualified, but it's sumo, so you didn't really win.
Exactly. It would be like, well, you hit really heavy squat and you grinded like Pana on like any of his comps. And you're like, well, you grinded it. It was really hard lift. We're going to give you extra 10 kilos for the effort. I would love it so much. It would be so funny.
Yeah. It's I do miss that aspect of powerlifting though, having kind of like, you know, the definite, like in the training was always very specific. Like, you know, you either got your lifts or you didn't. And I think that was the nice thing about it. So there was no way to cheat it really.
At the same time, that was one of the reasons why you stopped. Because I know that we spoke at the end and you were feeling like a lot of pressure to hit certain numbers and it was getting into your head and everything like that. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess on the flip side from that is, as you said, like I felt it got a little bit monotonous towards the end with the numbers. I think powerlifting, it's a numbers game, right? Like it's purely what's on the bar. You're either working with percentages or RPE, and you know you have to go in and hit that number on that day. Obviously, there's days you miss, and you know that happens. But I found there was, especially in the prep process towards the comp, there was a lot of pressure to hit a number. And I think at the time, I was obviously putting a lot of pressure on myself. And if I missed a number or it didn't move at the RPE it was supposed to move, that really got to me. And I really struggled to kind of, you know, remain stoic and not let that affect me. I was very like in my head about it. And then that had a knock-on effect on other sessions. So I did find it got a bit tedious towards the end as well. I love powerlifting and I'll always love it. And hopefully one day I'll go back and do maybe a deadlift only meet for a bit of fun. I have said I want to pull 300 kilos in my lifetime, so I will come back and do it.
We have the same goal.
Yeah, I want to do it at some point. Maybe when I'm a bit heavier again. But yeah, I think it got a bit tedious, and I think that's part of the reason I did switch over to bodybuilding, just to try something new. And it is really my roots as well. Like that's what initially got me into training. Like I got into training as most people do to look better. So I thought, you know what, we'll go back to the roots and kind of see what that has to offer.
Obviously, it's part of the sport. Like you get better by doing it. And with powerlifting, it can be really boring. Obviously, then it's on like the communication for the athlete to figure out, hey, I'm getting burned out. I need to speak with my coach, need to make some changes, take a week off, or do a bit more accessory-based training, stuff like that. But obviously, nothing really changes, especially like when you a couple of weeks out of prep. Like, you're not going to go, oh, you didn't enjoy squatting at the moment. Well, we're just going to stop squatting. Obviously, it's going to be there on the day. We don't need to worry about that. We're just going to do leg press instead. Obviously, that's not going to work. So sometimes you just need to suck it up. And if it's not enjoyable anymore, there is like it. For some people, it makes sense to just say, hey, I'm going to just suck it up for like 4 weeks or month or 2 or 3, get something good, get to Euros, Worlds, Nationals, anything like that, and feel good. Obviously, in your case, it was like, hey, if I'll be really, really, really lucky, I might get to Nationals and get my ass kicked there. Because obviously there was not much point for you to be like suffering through the powerlifting. So it makes sense.
It's a very good point as well. Is like, I'm someone I'm very competitive. Like most people, I think, who get into sport, like I want to be competitive when I get on stage, when I get on a platform or compete. And I kind of knew that. I mean, I don't want to be a victim to my genetics, but I always knew I was never going to be like the next IPF world champion. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't have the genetics to do it. So I think that kind of discouraged me a little bit. And this isn't saying to other people out there who might be, really tall or struggle with their sort of genetics, like, you can do anything you want. And take it from me, like, I would genetically suck at powerlifting, but I still competed 3 times in 3 different federations. So you can still do it. But for me personally, I just wanted to be competitive. And I thought, I'm not having much luck in powerlifting. There's only so much I can do. And I'm never going to, I was struggling just to hit the qualifying total for nationals. And then obviously, as you know, there's qualifiers and nationals is a whole different ballgame. Then you've got Euros and Worlds. And it's just, I wanted to do well. And I just didn't see me doing that in powerlifting. I thought I'd have a better shot in bodybuilding. So that's kind of why we moved over to here. But it turns out bodybuilding is also a bit of a short-term man's sport. So I think I'm just going to have a hard time regardless.
Well, the thing is, you could be good, but you need to be in 120s plus, somewhere around 160, 180 kilos to be able to fill out your frame. Because obviously even on the videos we saw, you were like 110, and still, even though you carried quite a bit of muscle mass, you still were always like quite skinny. Like, you never were like having fat stomach or anything like that. So it's just like, you need to be much heavier, but obviously, I don't know if we didn't speak about it, but when you were a young kid, you were literally too weak, and your body doesn't want to be gaining anything, not muscle, not fat, nothing. So obviously, the amount of food you would have to be pushing would be like 10,000 calories plus, and that's not really sustainable. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think naturally I was sitting, like, if I didn't force food, like if I just ate how I felt, I'd probably sit somewhere between 90 to 100, maybe 95. And that puts me slap bang in the most competitive weight class, like 93s or 105s. And I could have gone heavier, but then again, I'm against people who are bigger, shorter and bigger, more muscle mass. And obviously, generally in powerlifting, the heavier you get, the stronger you are. So I was just against people who were just ridiculously strong. And there was no real, I was never going to have a massive advantage. So, but again, that shouldn't stop you from taking part in the sport, because it is a very inclusive sport. Anybody can do it. Like, from competition we've done, you've had people who are like, what, in their 60s, 70s even competing. Like, anybody can do powerlifting. You just have to show up on the day and have fun with it. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people just see it as like a SPD day, like a day out in the office, out of the office even. So that's the nice thing about it, is you can just apply for a qualifier and just go and have fun. You don't have to try and be the best. So if that's okay for you, then obviously you can go do that. And it's a great environment to be in.
And to be fair, I don't think that I've seen many people have as much fun as those who are either like really weak and young, like those who are like one of the first comps, or the people who are like 45, 55 plus. Like, if I see someone on a comp, like 55-year-old woman, who is having like normal life, a couple of kids at home, husband, everything, and just like does it for fun, they always are on the comp, the happiest people. Like, they hit their opener and you feel like they celebrate like they've won a jackpot, and they are like cheering for everyone. They're the nicest people there. And there's something to say about it. Like it helps the sport, and it's obviously a good part of the sport. I just cannot imagine like doing it just for fun. I need to see the improvement and everything. And that's probably the young guy thing, that you need to feel and fuel the ego. And if you're bad, you cannot really like I don't know. But it's weird, man.
I agree. Like, I think quite often at comps, you see the people who are having the most fun, the people who are just there for a laugh, who aren't really trying too hard. And you said it perfectly. Like, the feeling I got pulling my third deadlift on my first comp, it was only 240, I think I did, and at my first IPF comp, which was still quite impressive. But obviously, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you got 17-year-olds pulling well over 300 now, so it's crazy. But hey, that's just the way it's going. But yeah, that feeling you get when you set a goal on a number, it could be a total. For me, I think it was over 500 for my first comp, and then
I think it was. I remember now, it was spot on 500.
My deadlift was nearly half of my total. I remember that was it. I had to hit that, didn't I? Because my bench missed.
Yeah, we were planning on going to 65. But you missed your last bench, which was supposed to be 100. So we went, okay, fine, you need to pull to 70. And I remember that it was like, there was me, Jack, Lewis was there, and like the whole group of us. And I remember Jack before the deadlift, you were just standing there. Jack was slapping your back, and at the same time, I was shoving ammonia in your face.
Ammonia.
And I remember that Jack slapped you, and your nose went straight into the ammonia.
Yeah.
And he just looked up, red eyes, absolute like mental stage, and just walk out there screaming. And the whole crowd was just cheering for you because it was the comp where your bench sucked really badly.
Yeah. And that feeling right there is the most incredible. When you put that bar back down and you see the white pieces of paper, whatever the lights, whatever they use. Obviously, at that comp, it was just bits of paper, but
it might have been paper.
Yeah, and it was just honestly such a good feeling, and that feeling you cannot replicate, and that feeling alone is why it's worth doing a competition in power. If you're even just a little bit interested and you enjoy doing SBD work and you enjoy getting stronger, just go for a comp. Honestly, just do it. You don't have to. This is what I said to myself. Remember when we were first talking about this? Is I was like, I'm not going to do it because I'm not strong enough. But the thing is with that ideology is you're never going to be as strong as you want to be. Like, I could wait till my total 600. Then I'm I'm not strong enough. I could wait till 700, still not strong enough. So, you might as well just do it. And I think that's the beauty of it, is you can just go do it and there's no pressure there to qualify. And I think that feeling you get from finishing it is so worth it. And it gives you that motivation in your training as well, just to really work towards something. And you'll find if you have a goal in mind, even if it's like a mock meet, like a charity meet or something, your motivation to train is so much greater, and you'll find you actually achieve more because you have something to work towards.
That's why I hate off seasons. I just find it like, if I don't have the goal, I just find it so like annoying. But like as you said, like you're never strong enough. Like on my first comp, I hit 605. Which is pretty good for the first comp, but at the same time, it was like, okay, fair enough, good, let's go, let's move on. And I didn't feel strong enough. And now I'm 2 weeks out, where hopefully I'll hit 280, 180, 280, and I still don't feel strong enough to compete. Like, and I don't think that I ever will, like, unless I'll be winning worlds by 100 kilos to the back, which is not going to happen. Because of both Matthews and Tony Cliff and everyone else in the 120s, basically. I'm just never gonna feel strong enough to like deserve to compete. And it's not about deserving it, it's about deciding. So that's quite interesting one.
No, definitely. And I think it's a good point to mention. I think it's very common. Most people feel it, but don't speak about it. I think, I've always been the same. And as I've come into bodybuilding now, I was like, I've only really been strictly bodybuilding for about a year or so, just over a year. And even this year, I was like, I'm not big enough. Like, I'm gonna get wiped. Like, there's no point even, stepping on stage. It'll be embarrassing. Then I was like, well, then that's just more reason to go do it, because again, same applies in bodybuilding. I could wait another year or two, take more drugs, do more food, get bigger, and I'm still going to think the same thing. So you might as well just accept the fact that you're never going to be satisfied. You'll always be proud but never satisfied, and you might as well just go ahead and do it because, what's stopping you?
Exactly. And there is one more thing that we didn't even mention. Imagine how shit you would feel if you would sacrifice hours and hours and hours and tons of money into either powerlifting, bodybuilding, or any other sport. Then you would step on the stage or on the do the competition and find out that you actually hate it. Like, imagine me like going there and like, okay, I'm gonna hit qualifying total, then I should be strong enough to win nationals, and then I should get to Euros and should be able to place top 3 there. And it's going to be awesome. I feel strong enough. I spent 4 years really building up, really, really working out. And now I can actually hit the scene and be the big phenomenon. And then I show up on the nationals or even on the qualifier. And I'm like, Jesus, this is it. I fucking hate this shit.
and that happens. Like I know people that try it once, powerlifting and bodybuilding, and it's like, it's not for me. But then I think, you know what? Like, good, you tried it, and you would have never known if you didn't. So I think it's worthwhile trying anyway. And yes, you might not like it. I think if you have a naturally like competitive nature about you, you will enjoy it because you'll like the idea of competition. Like you and I think we enjoy it because we like competition. So I think it's worth trying. 100%.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying, like, waiting doesn't make any sense at all. Like that's just the truth.
No, not at all.
I'm actually like, I know that I was like, few times I kind of even gave myself a window where I want to do like bodybuilding prep and like spend some time actually focusing on bodybuilding, do bodybuilding prep and get on the bodybuilding stage. But I just never do it. And I know that I would enjoy it I always enjoy the work and like the self-discipline and to do everything that you need to do to diet down so far. And I think that I would really enjoy the mental battle. But at the same time, at the moment, I'm like, I've worked so long to get somewhere in powerlifting. And if I would spend it would probably be like 3/4 of a year, maybe a year, I would need to take away from powerlifting. And I'm like, I would just be like so far back to where I could have been that I'm like, I don't really want that.
The thing is, in your position is you are good at powerlifting and you have like potentially, you've been to Bucks, so University Nationals, you've been to, do you compete IPF Nationals? I don't think you.
No, not in UK.
No, but you obviously you qualified, but you didn't.
Yeah, I qualified.
Didn't go through. But obviously you've been on national stage and you have potential to do well, so that makes sense for you. But at the same time, it's funny you mention that because this is, I often get asked like, why am I doing the bodybuilding prep? And in all fairness, the main reason is because similar to what you said, I love the routine and the structure and everything being on point, and I love the effect that has on my life. So yes, I'm doing it for the experience and to see how well I do, but I'm also doing it because I just love this way of life, and it forces you to live this way. So because you can't make an error in bodybuilding, on prep. Like you can make a few small, maybe minor changes, but you can't go and have a cheat meal when it's not planned because that's going to throw you off. So you need to be on point. It forces discipline, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make you like, it makes you win over your own body, that your body is telling you, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm tired. And you're just like, well, I don't care. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that like that helps so many people. And like, I went through something like that, like back in one of the rounds of COVID, that I was like dieting for 7 months with my coach, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, at the end, it started annoying me because I started losing strength. And I know that I would really struggle doing it at the moment because I would be like, hey, I can still train powerlifting with bodybuilding. Obviously, it wouldn't be the best for either of those, but I can maintain my strength and diet down to do bodybuilding show. But then I would be like, hey, why am I failing 250 squat? Why am I failing 230 squat? Why am I failing 200 squat? And I would be just so much in my head that I would just need to like quit squat, bench, deadlift, like cold turkey, just be like, I'm not touching it for however long the comp is going to be. And that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. That is the reality of it. Is you have to kind of leave the ego and just kind of accept the fact that you are going to lose a bit of strength. And unfortunately, it depends how far you're dieting. Obviously, if you're going to go on a bodybuilding prep, you're going to lose strength. If you're just dieting down a little bit to get down to another weight class, you could probably keep the strength. But since we're talking about obviously bodybuilding and powerlifting, should we talk about some of the main differences? I think it'd be interesting. Obviously, we've both got a bit of experience in both. So what would you say from your experience, like the things that the main differences between, we'll start with training, I guess. So like training between obviously powerlifting. I mean, it's quite obvious to some maybe, but for others who don't know, like the main differences between obviously powerlifting and bodybuilding.
As far as train, like I think like the main concepts of like diet, sleep, supplementation, those kind of things are pretty much similar. There is not much difference. Yes, there are some small changes, but it's pretty close if it's done properly. But the main difference is obviously in training. And in my view, is that powerlifting, you train movements, you train to get better at movement. Meanwhile, in bodybuilding, you're training muscle and you don't really care about the movement. In powerlifting, you actually try to use the least amount of muscles to move the weight from A to B. Meanwhile, in bodybuilding, you're trying to use the most amount of muscles to move it from A to B, or most of the specific muscle.
Yeah. So it's that saying, isn't it, that powerlifting, you're trying to make a heavyweight look light. And with bodybuilding, you're trying to make a lightweight look heavy, which I think for me, that transition when I switched to bodybuilding was like, it took me ages. And even still now, a year and a half onwards, I still have moments where I go back to old habits. Because I was powerlifting for about 4 years. So I have moments where I'll just like, when I put like a hip hinge back in, I'm doing deadlifts, and I'll just rip it off the floor and I'll just slam it back down with no sort of eccentric control. But obviously, bodybuilding, you kind of want to have a bit more sort of control. Not like a stupid amount, but obviously you got to kind of change your outlook on the movement, the way you're trying to perform it, because you've got different goals at the end of the day. You know, so you got to change the way in which you're doing it.
Yeah. Like in the bodybuilding, you want to exhaust the muscle during the movement. In powerlifting, you actually want to use the most amount of like muscle groups in the same movement, so you don't exhaust yourself at all. Like ideally, you should be leaving powerlifting training feeling fresh. Meanwhile, bodybuilding, you should be like barely able to walk home after leg day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, one thing would be interesting to talk about, and good to get your opinion on this. Since switching to bodybuilding, now that I've learned what I have from strict bodybuilding, I'm going to go out there and say it, and it'd be good to get your perspective on it.
Okay,
I think powerlifters, when they're not in prep, should train predominantly like a bodybuilder. What's your thoughts? So when you're not peaking or prepping for a competition in your off season, you should train 70%, 75% like a bodybuilder, more so than a powerlifter. What's your thoughts on that? Because that's something that I kind of realized and learned.
Yeah. I actually think that the distinction you put there with the prep doesn't even need to be there. I think that for accessories, you should always train like bodybuilder, and for like SBD and variations of SBD, you should always train like powerlifter. Like, obviously, there is something to be said about like how close you get to failure and how much you want to actually exhaust the muscle. But you should be doing the same thing as a powerlifter that the bodybuilder does, just maybe pull back a little bit sooner, just so, for example, your lat pull downs don't ruin your bench the next day. But that's the only consideration I would apply there. Like, I think that overall, we do accessories. Well, some accessories we do to help us get better in the movement. Those you can train like powerlifter. Good mornings, some variations of the main lifts. maybe something like RDLs or I don't know, dumbbell press. Those kind of things can be trained as a powerlifter. But if I'm doing something that's not even close to the movement, then I should be training like bodybuilder. So yeah, I basically agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's good you said that as well, because the reason I brought it up is when I first got into powerlifting, I was just under the impression that no matter what I did in the gym, I just had to move it as quickly as possible. And I see this mistake a lot. It's like you'll do your, obviously you'll have your squat, bench, deadlift day, then you have your accessory work after. And I do my accessory work and I just load the lat pull down, the seated row with weight I could not control. But because I was moving it from A to B, I thought I was doing the right thing. But after, I guess, years of doing it and I was switching to bodybuilding, I realized the benefit in treating my accessory movements like a bodybuilder and trying to get the most hypertrophy out of those movements. Because ultimately, generally speaking, the more muscle tissue you have, the stronger you're probably going to be. So why not try and grow more muscle tissue, obviously, from those movements, right? So it's only going to benefit you when you're doing your SPD work.
That's the reason why the accessories are there. Like they're rarely there for anything else. Like sometimes we put there for compensation or like training some disbalances or something like that. But that's very like small percentage.
Yeah.
Usually you do it just to get bigger, just to get stronger. And the thing is it that powerlifters don't enjoy like the bodybuilding training or don't know that they should be training like that? Or is it that their ego is so strong they need to show that they are strong on other movements than SBD? Because obviously, if bodybuilder looks at powerlifter, they're like, oh yeah, he's stronger on squat than me, but I can do more reps on leg press than he does. Or I can be stronger on leg press. And the powerlifter is like, well, can you? Well, I'll show you. And then obviously his form goes to shit. He uses everything he can, but he beats him. And even if there is no interaction like this, we all think about it.
Like, 100%. Subconsciously, you'll think that, especially when in gyms we've trained at. Obviously, you've got the powerlifting section, then you come over to the bodybuilding section, and you, as a powerlifter, you want to assert a bit of dominance and show that you are a powerlifter by lifting heavier weight, by loading up the 50, 60 kilo dumbbells and just throwing it around. But I think as I've realized, you know, powerlifting does need to involve a good amount of bodybuilding style training to really get the most out of it. And if I went back now to do powerlifting, I would treat majority of my training outside of SPD work, if not all of my training, like a bodybuilder. I would still try to grow as much tissue as I can and develop that mind muscle connection and make the accessories look really difficult that are actually not that heavy. And I think that would benefit me more now that I know that if I did go back to powerlifting. So I think it's an interesting thing, obviously, comparing the two.
Well, I have two more things to add to this. First of all, I remember after my bench sessions where I had like dumbbell presses, and I would go to the bodybuilding section, as you said, and I would just like kind of look at who is there, who is having like wood dumbbells and stuff, just even to find a place where I can like which bench is free and stuff. But then I would be like, well, I have like 2 sets of 6 with 2 RPE or 2 reps in reserve. So I'm like, well, then that means that I can take the 60s. Yeah, no one here can take the 60s. So I would just take the 60s. I would do still good reps, good range of motion, good dynamics, everything, but I would not be trying to get the most of muscle activation. I would be actually trying to get the least. And I would maybe start in here, do 2 reps here, 2 reps here, 2 reps here, just to exhaust all the muscle groups so I can do more reps with heavier weight, just to show the bodybuilders that, hey, I'm the strong one here now. Which, I realized when you're saying it, I'm like, I and I still do it on like movements where I think the strength carries over pretty well. Like obviously it makes no like sense. The example you used, lat pull down, just throwing it down, like it's not gonna help you with your deadlift. Like the carryover is so small that the strength gain from lat pull down is not gonna do anything. But like with the dumbbell presses or anything, it can. But you said that you realized it when you started bodybuilding. How or what would you say that we need to change as the like typical powerlifter that does what you said, what would you give them as a cues to focus on? Or, hey, try to do this, try to do that.
Yeah.
Anything people can take over from this?
This is, a very good question. And the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously with powerlifting. So in your squat, bench, and deadlift, from my understanding, obviously it's been a while since I haven't read any of the recent literature in powerlifting, but I think you use mainly external cues in SBD work, right? You think externally most of the time. I think you try to think, what's the body doing? Are you pushing the floor away, pulling up more than, I think generally think more externally than intrinsically in powerlifting. And something that I learned when coming across the bodybuilding, which obviously powerlifters can take on board with their accessory movements, is think intrinsically. Actually think about what the muscle is doing. And it sounds almost a little bit crazy, but I'll almost close my eyes and I will think about, say we're doing a bicep curl, I'll think about instead of my arms lengthening, I'm thinking the reason that's happening is because my bicep is lengthening. And then when I'm here, I'll think I'm not moving my hand, my bicep is contracting, and I will consciously think about the muscle actually, and I will imagine it squeezing. And I'm trying to think the only way that my hand is coming up and bending at the elbow is because I'm tensing my bicep. And it sounds crazy at first, but when you try it and you adopt that style of training into your accessory work as a powerlifter, you will see monumental progress. I honestly do believe it. I think it's just trying to treat your accessories and think about it intrinsically in terms of what the muscles are actually doing, more so than in your SBD work. You're just trying to produce movement as efficiently as possible. So you're not really thinking about what the individual muscles are doing. You're more thinking about, positioning, would you say?
Yep, agree with that. The only thing I would add, if people are going to try to implement it, try it with the easier exercises first. As you said, biceps curl, back deck, something like that. Or like even lateral raises. It's going to be easier to think about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you're going to think about like, I don't know, row or lat pull down or something for the back, especially because you cannot see it, it's going to be harder to think about it. But one thing that you are actually, one thing you were actually doing, even without saying it, you were literally watching the arm when you were like talking about it, even watching the muscle, even though that it's weird, it helps with the muscle activation, because obviously you telling the body, hey, this is what I want to activate, and it works better. So yeah, so I think that's really good point. Anything else? Do you think that people could take
with training? I think that's the main thing. Like I think it's just like I think going back, if I could go back to powerlifting now with what I now know, it would just be treat my accessories like a bodybuilder and enjoy it. I think it's very normal in powerlifting you finish your working sets of like bench, and you finish your Larson press, and you're looking at your accessories the coach has set you, and you're like, oh, shit, like, what can I swear on here? I don't even know. We can swear.
Go for it.
I'm like,
I think I swore like 15 times.
you're like, shit, I've got this to do. I hate this. I hate dumbbell pressing. I hate pec deck. Try to enjoy it. And I think I'll reference a Mike Tyson quote is discipline is doing the things you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. And I think now that I know that, I would try to adopt that going back to, because obviously if you're a powerlifter, you enjoy the SBD work mainly, but try and adopt the mentality that by enjoying the accessory work, you're more likely to try harder at it, therefore get a better result, therefore ultimately get stronger in your SBD work. So try to make that connection and just try to see it as a new experience and see it as something, you can learn and develop over time.
I'll add a bit to this, the caveat.
Yeah, go
on. Everyone has exercises that he hates. And sometimes we can avoid them, sometimes we can't. If you really hate exercise and you really cannot avoid it, fair enough. I expect that you're not gonna like it. I expect you're gonna complain, but I expect you're gonna shut up and do them anyway. So obviously, if you don't enjoy the exercise, no one enjoys Bulgarian split squats, and no one likes them, but we all kinda do them. Yeah, no one gives 100% into them, but we do them because we have to. But I think that most of the time where I had issue with my accessories, if it wasn't something that I like hate as an exercise, was where I was really fatigued from SBD, that my CNS
Yeah.
was absolutely fried. Like I had, I don't know, one single, then 3 sets of 5, then 1 set of 8 or something like that, all really high RPE or even low RPE, but I was pushing it on like with heavier weight than I should have. And then obviously if my CNS is exhausted, or I
Yeah.
haven't slept well, or I haven't eaten or drink well, then obviously I'm not gonna be enjoying the rest of the session. But that's probably like I'll finish my single and I'll be like, oh, I'm really gassed up. I don't even do my backoffs. Like I don't want to do my backoffs because my CNS is fucked. So I think that in most cases where we really don't want to do accessories, it should be warning sign like, hey, you might be pushing too far. Yeah. Obviously, some people are gonna be just bitches and just gonna need to be like,
Yeah.
hey, you're doing 1 set of doubles. You need to shut up and go. Like, there's no
Yeah.
excuse.
No, I do agree that with powerlifting, you do have to be a lot more conscious of how much systemic fatigue you are building up and how that's going to affect you. Because
Yeah.
obviously, you need to remember you might do if you it's like me, if you've got a high bench frequency, if feeling a bit fatigued after your heavy bench, and then you've got an accessory bench day the next day, is it going to be wise then if you're feeling really fatigued to go and smash out, push accessories, then, potentially have an onset effect on your last impression, your other SBD movements or, variations in the rest of the week. So, yeah, I do agree. You have to be a bit more aware of your body. Absolutely. Whereas I think in bodybuilding, like with my training now, I know that the muscle group I'm about to go train, I haven't trained for another 2 or 3 days. So I know it's recovered. So I know no matter what, unless I'm dealing with injury, which touch wood, I'm not, but like, you should just be able to go in and do it. No excuses, right? You train regardless, because obviously I know
Yeah.
I've recovered since my last session. Whereas powerlifting, you do have to be a bit more aware of, is this going to cause too much fatigue? Is it going to affect the rest of my session, especially in prep? 100%.
And I'm so jealous of the fact that you can just go and smash it because I always struggled with it with powerlifting. Like, for example, today I had my like bodybuilding session because I have like once a week I have session without SBD because we
Yeah.
found out that if I squat twice a week, my knees just get fucked up. So I have leg press instead. So I go in there, I have 3 sets of 8 on leg press. And I actually need to really hold myself back because I want to put there 5, 6 plates and do like really proper like training. But I know that if I do it on Wednesday, which now is Sunday, so on Wednesday, my deadlift is gonna suffer. And I really hate this. I really hate this mental game. And I'm always like, am I actually pulling back because I have a reason to, or is it just because I'm bitch? And it's
Yeah.
like it's such a hard line to walk. Like I always need to think about it. Like, why do I wanna like take this set bit easier? Or can I afford to push this set not into RPE 8, but RPE 10? Or do I want to do like a couple of force reps to get extra stimuli and extra muscle growth from it? But is it gonna hurt my next training? And I would really love just to go to the gym, not care about the weight that I put there, just take it for a heavy set of 10 into fail, do it
Mm.
twice, next week come in again, try to do a bit more. If I feel like shit and I'm like, I haven't eaten, I haven't slept properly, something like that, just life happened, I don't care that I put there like 20 kilos less. If I still push myself close to the failure or to the level I'm expected to, I should get similar muscle gain no matter the weight. So it's like I would
Yeah.
really enjoy this, but at the same
It
time, it's I don't
it
know.
is nice. It is nice in the sense of obviously bodybuilding, you still need to be progressing to some degree. You still need to try and obviously, the goal is to still get stronger, to apply
Yeah.
a greater stimulus each week. Obviously, you want to be, whether that's increasing load, reps, tempo, whatever you're trying to do, but there's less pressure there too. And I think this is again stemming back to why part of the reason I left powerlifting, because of that, the pressure to hit the number and the knowing the onset effect it would have if I didn't hit the number was
Mm.
obviously a big deal. Whereas in bodybuilding, if I don't match ups or progress, it's like, okay, it's a bit frustrating, but I've still destroyed the muscle and I'm still
Yeah.
inducing hypertrophy and I'm going to grow. So it's not the end of the world, because I know I'm still hitting my goals. I'm still ultimately progressing. So I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
I'm a bit jealous of that. I actually thought about one more thing that I think that most powerlifters could benefit from on accessories, and that's slowing down the eccentric portion of the lift, so the lengthening of the muscle. So I think that, as you said, like moving it to A to B, there is some benefit in trying to move the weight as fast as you can concentrically. Like, it's not best for hypertrophy, but it's good for like the nerve activation and some strength building. So it can have some benefit, but there is no benefit in just doing let pull down, pull it down here, and then just drop it. Like, it just gives you no benefit and risk injury. Meanwhile, if you go nice and slowly, you can milk so much out of the reps.
Yeah. Well, we pretty much now know that obviously the lengthening, the eccentric phase is more conducive to hypertrophy than the concentric. So if you say had to choose between one for the rest of your life, doing a concentric or an eccentric, and your goal was growth, or even you could argue strength, I would choose eccentric, because you're going to grow more from eccentric. And this is why we're seeing a lot of literature, especially, I'm not sure how much you follow in the bodybuilding scene nowadays, but a lot of lengthened partials, really spending a good amount of time in that lengthened position, because we now know that you will cause more like muscle damage and ultimately more hypertrophy, more growth in that position. So it's kind of how I'm training at the moment, is I will, spend a good, like, not excessively long, but I'll spend a good 3 to 5 seconds and a pause in that lengthened position, really abusing the muscle in the stretch position. Then concentric, I won't put as much thought into. I'll just get the full range of motion, and I'm back into the eccentric. So I'm probably spending about 80 to 90% of the time in the lengthened position when I'm doing a rep. And I think the same can apply to powerlifting and accessories. I think they can benefit from that massively.
Yeah. Like, if you do it the way how you said, it also changes how much weight you need to use. And obviously on some machines, it doesn't matter. But on other machines, the more weight you use, the riskier it is. The heavier dumbbells you need to use, the riskier it is. The more you stress your tendons, the higher is potential damage if it, for example, slips out of the hand and falls on your face and stuff like that. It doesn't really happen, but if it happens, it's pretty bad. So obviously, if you can get the same benefit from 40 kilos compared to 60 kilos, why would you go for the heavier? It's annoying. It's heavier. You need to move it. You need to like push it to the bench. It's just annoying to work with. Yeah. If you take the 40s and you get the same benefit, why wouldn't you do that? And like, I follow the literature quite a bit, so I know the studies you're talking about, and it obviously makes sense. Like, in the lengthened position, the muscle is weakest in the longest and shortest position. But in here, you don't really move anywhere. Like, you don't have such a, like, the leverage is not so hard. The gravitation usually tends to be easier, or the gravitation pull tends to be easier on the maximal concentric way. So you get the more benefit from the longest position. Also, like, for most exercises, it's really hard to do partials in the shortened position. Like, if my bicep is exhausted, I'm not getting here to be doing this. I might be getting here. That's about it. So I'll just do straight arm, half, rather than like helping myself to get to the middle and then be like, hey, like, it's just easier and it just works better. So the partials are a great way how to get some extra stimuli for people who don't want to do like drop sets, supersets, rest pause, those kind of things.
Yeah, and that's the majority of my training at the moment. When I am training till failure, I don't really implement, especially now on prep. It's really just I'll go to mechanical failure. Then if I'm pushing beyond, I'll just add in some length and partials. Really, I don't tend to often do many drop sets. It's kind of funny because when I first moved over, I was like, drop set city. Let's do as many drop sets as we can. The typical run the rack all the way down. But it turns out to be quite counterproductive.
And it's also annoying. Like, I don't want to be like, if I'm doing biceps, I don't want to be like at the end of the set there with 2.5 kilo dumbbells and just struggle. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. I want to feel like the alpha male. I want to feel like the strongest one and not standing there with 2.5 kilo dumbbells and it being hard for me. Like, that's the same shit. Like, there's the ego as well.
Do you want to touch on nutrition at all, or do you want to leave that for a later episode?
I think we're gonna leave nutrition for some other
because
part.
there's a lot we can. Because I was going to say we could talk about the differences, if any, there as well, which I think would be another interesting topic. Which for me, there are definitely a lot of differences, but we'll save that for a later time.
And obviously, it's going to be funny to see the difference in not only our diets but our caloric intake. Just to give people example, my peak bulking weight, like amount of calories, is less than you have now on a cut.
Well, we're currently So you said you were bulking on about 4.2k calories.
Yeah.
And for reference, I'm currently 11 weeks into a bodybuilding prep, and I'm eating that much food on my training day. So I'm losing weight drastically. But then it just goes to show you the difference in genetics, and and the laws of thermodynamics, I guess. And it sounds lovely when you're on a prep. And don't get me wrong, it is lovely. I mean, I'm eating 4,000 calories. I'm not really that hungry yet, and I'm losing weight. But as we know from the gaining side of things, it is uncomfortable the amount of food I've had to eat to grow. Like, it is to the point where I've honestly thought I was going to die, like eating that much food.
I remember you eating 7,000 calories and just like stuffing your face all the time. And like at the time, I was like chilling a bit, having my normal diet, and I tracked one day and I had 2,700 calories. And that was like my normal day of eating. And I was like, oh shit. And I was basically like 6-7 kilos lighter than you. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like literally eating 1/3 of what you had to eat. And that's like that's going to be interesting topic, because obviously you're the definition of hard gainer. So you might be able to give some of the small members or small viewers some tips and tricks how to get more food in. Because let's be honest, in powerlifting, you have really no business to be in weight class less than 83. Like anything less, people should just eat and get bigger. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, it's true. Just like why are you competing in sub 83? Like, come on, what are you doing?
But I'm willing to argue that 74s. I can be convinced that 74s should be weight category, but it's like the lowest you should be able to go. Like
I'm already seeing the comments. all the lightweight powerlifters coming at you.
Like if you look at average of population, average male is around 84 kilos. So how can you be going to the gym, be strong, muscular, everything, and be lighter than average male? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
You're very, very short. But that's true, though, because obviously it isn't the 93s the most like packed weight class normally.
93s and 105s.
Yeah, and I think if you're an average man and you've been training for a while, you're gonna fall into that sort of range somewhere. If you're average height as well, you're gonna be in that sort of range. So I think that's why obviously it's so. To be fair, in all fairness to the 83s and the 74s, I can understand keeping down to that category, because you're against people like the 93s now are just, from what I've last seen, they're crazy strong. They're lifting more than some of the 105s and 120s. Like some of the lifts I've seen recently, like the deadlifts and stuff at nationals and at worlds, are just absurd.
In 83s, you have Edna Horo, who
that's his name.
4 days ago, he tried 405 on the world stage because he needed to pull for the win. It was him, Durant from Great Britain, and Russ. So those three were competing, and Edna put 405 to try and win. He didn't get it, but he got it off the ground. So
that's absurd. Well, it's even more so like who's the 83 junior, Joey, I want to say his name is on Instagram. He's just like, I'll have to send you his thing after. You can put it on screen maybe, but he's just pulling like, I think he's just gone into junior and he pulls like 360, 370.
Yeah.
And he's just gone from sub-junior to junior. He's just turned 19. And I saw that and I was like, what is happening?
That's
like,
basically
how
the same
are
like
people so
Nonzo.
strong?
The same as like Nonzo. But Nonzo is minus 120. But still, like,
it's crazy. I don't. Honestly, I think it's just the access to information, the fact that people are training now from like such a young age, like, and well, potentially dabbling in other things. You'd like to think they're natural, but you never really know nowadays, do you?
Well, the thing is, if you look at most of those people and look at their heritage, it's all from Africa. And I know it's going to be racist because two white guys are talking about this shit.
It's just no genetics.
If you look at that, all the like top deadlifters are from this heritage. So it like not even deadlifters, but obviously with deadlifters it's main thing. But even like great squatters, they just are different.
They just are. Well, it's it's not saying obviously they still have to put in an equal amount of work, but genetically,
not equal.
I know what you mean though.
Here it is. Nonzo, who is minus 120, he turned 18 or 19 now. He has 960 total.
960.
Yeah, on some podcast he was talking, and he said that after 2 weeks of training, 2 or 3 weeks of training, he was playing rugby before. He just during the summer break, he just started going to the gym. He pulled 220 after 2 or 3 weeks. Like it just doesn't happen normally. It just freaks.
It's just one in a million, one in however many people. It's just If you have a good genetics and a good sporting background, you need to be doing powerlifting.
But the thing is, like, no one gave a fuck about powerlifting before like TikTok and Instagram. Like now it's getting quite like popular, and that's why those people show up. Because like otherwise, those people wouldn't know that something like powerlifting exists, first of all. And second of all, who would want to do the sport that gets you no money at all? Now they have like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and sponsorship, so they can make money, and it's interesting, so they do it. But normally they would just say, why not? I'm gonna play rugby and I'll be chilling.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I think this is as good note as any to leave it here.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. It's been enjoyable. Thank you for having me on.
It was good chat. It was good chat. I enjoyed it. Obviously gonna have you here at some point again. Gonna have a bit of chat about nutrition or anything.
I'll have to put up a story and get anyone watching to ask some questions for the next one. So if there's anything they want to know about, like the natural to unnatural, the hard gainer, the bodybuilding, powerlifting, any questions, make them good. Make them good. If you get people to send them in, we'll talk about that in the next one.
And obviously you do quite a bit of coaching, mainly bodybuilding, lifestyle. So are you taking new people in, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I take in like a set amount of people every month. So mainly bodybuilding and lifestyle. I do have a couple people who do an element of strength training, powerlifting, but mainly bodybuilding and lifestyle. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll be around.
Yeah. So if you want to be coached by this handsome gentleman, shoot him a DM, and we will report back with another episode. Thank you for listening. Peace out.
See you later.